Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all. Welcome to this webinar session on Mexico's ornamental sector. Mexico is one of the biggest vegetable producers in the world, and when it comes to flowers and plants, the country is also a major force. But while the majority of vegetables is being exported, flowers and plants are usually destined for the internal market. So what's the current situation on that market, and will it change anytime soon? As many of us in the business are asking ourselves already for a long time, will Mexico be that sleeping floricultural giant that hopefully wakes up in the next couple of years and starts conquering North America? We hope to answer that question and much more in the next 1.5 hours.
Let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Ed Smith. I'm one of the two owners of Jungle Talks based in Costa Rica, a Dutch company based in Costa Rica. And next to me is
René Snijders, and together we present this session on behalf of Floriculture International and AIPH. So today we will be discussing current trends and the future of Mexico's ornamental sector. And we do that with 5 experts. We have with us today Mr. Santiago Argüello of the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Federico Martinez of the Consejo Nacional de la Flor in Mexico, Marco Beltran, Director of Cox Flor, Claudia Lee, General Director of Akiko, and Marco Heijnen, Commercial Manager at Floricultura. But before we go to our guests of today, we'd like to present to you the Secretary General of AIPH, Mr. Tim Rearcliffe. Tim, are you with us? Yes, here you are. Welcome again. It's always a pleasure to have you with us, but especially this week because the timing of this session is excellent, because we're celebrating 200 years of independence, not only in Costa Rica, but also in Mexico. So it's a week of festivities and lots of flowers. So very apt for this session.
That's good. And well, thank you very much for your welcome to us all. And thank you to all those who have joined to the webinar today. I want to just briefly introduce AIPH to you. AIPH is the International Association of Horticultural Producers, and our purpose is to be the world's champion for the power of plants, and we exist to stimulate demand for ornamental trees, plants and flowers worldwide, to protect and promote the industry, to share information within the industry, promoting best practice and strengthening associations of growers. We have over 50 members, next slide, around the world, full and affiliate members. And if your country is not highlighted there in the red, then please contact us and we should get you to join also in AIPH. We are active in the promotion of international horticultural exhibitions, in promoting the green city and the importance of the use of plants and trees in urban areas for improving the environment and quality of life. And we support growers directly on things like plant health and novelty protection. We run the International Grower of the Year Awards competition, and also this time we're working with Jungle Talks with a Young Grower of the Year as well, linked with their masterclass program. I'd like to draw your attention to our virtual conference coming up on the 30th of September. Please visit our website for more information on this. The focus is on sustainability, the path to sustainability in ornamental horticulture, a very topical issue, and we bring together all those dealing with this topic globally. And please join us on the 30th of September. We publish the annual statistical yearbook along with our colleagues in Union Fleur, and we've been doing that for now some 69 years, and so we are active in that, and that is also available through contacting us on our website. We publish the Global Floriculture International magazine, and you can subscribe to this online magazine free of charge, and following the link there. And the latest edition is all about sustainability, and now we are publishing this monthly magazine, and these webinars are organized as part of FCI. We have other webinars coming up. The next one will be about the wedding market and how that is going to develop and how that looks for the future, especially in the back of a time where weddings has been very difficult through the pandemic. And then I hope we will make a new plan for a new webinar series in 2022. So it's really great that we can be able to have this webinar about Mexico. The AIPH has approved OPF Mexico exhibition, which takes place from the 17th to the 19th of November. And we're really pleased to be associated with this event and would encourage you all to try to attend this exhibition taking place in November. And we're pleased to have OPF Mexico as a member of AIPH as well. I'd like to thank Floricultura as well for their sponsorship support for this webinar. And now I'm pleased to be able to introduce a video that you can watch about OPF Mexico. And thank you very much, Ed and Rene. Over to you again.
Thank you so much, Tim. Here's the video.
Ornamental Plants and Flowers Mexico, powered by IPM and member of the International Association of Horticultural Producers, is the event for professionals of the ornamental industry with a large attendance of producers. An event that will address the 4 areas of innovation and technology, landscaping and gardening, plants and flowers, and floral design, together with floristry. OPF Expo 2021 will take place from November 17th to the 19th in Room B of the Citibanamex Center in Mexico City. In terms of ornamental production, Mexico has more than 23,000 hectares planted, of which more than 7,000 are in greenhouses, being one of the top 3 countries in the world in plant and flower sowing extension. It also has more than 25,000 producers, generating 188,000 direct jobs, of which 60% is female labor in the ornamental sector, and more than 1 million indirect jobs. In addition, Mexico has all the climates and heights to produce, from tropical plants and flowers to tall plants and cold climates. Mexico also has international treaties that facilitate international trade. It also has the benefits of being a border with the United States of America, which is the largest market in the world for the consumption of flowers and ornamental plants, so export and transportation costs are reduced. Do not miss the event dedicated to the professionals and producers of the ornamental industry, OPF Expo 2021. Consult the conference program, panelists, and exhibitors at www.opfexpo.com.
Well, I think it's clear from the OPF mission also to expand exports or to go to other countries with Mexico's flowers and plants. Let's see how our experts think about that and what the challenges, opportunities are to achieve this goal. First up, Mr. Santiago Argüello. I hope you are with us. And you have prepared a brief presentation also to enlighten the audience on what Mexico has to offer in with regards to the ornamental industry. So please, Mr. Argüello, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Rene. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank Jungle Talks and AIPH for this opportunity to share this morning about the Mexican floriculture and ornamental public policy. What I would like to share today is a little bit of the background on legal framework that we have in Mexico, the priority programs to support, and strategic projects also to support the floriculture, some Mexican floriculture figures, governance, instruments of public policy, and next steps and our agenda 2020-2030. So I would like to start saying that as a background, I don't know if you could go next, please. Yes, next as well. Thank you. First of all, as a background, I would like to mention that the mandate that we have in our sector program 2019-2024, which has at ultimate goal the well-being of the Mexicans and the governance of wills to achieve a more inclusive and fair country. That is a nation project that seeks to create a condition of equality and without generalizing between North and South, and where, of course, floriculture and ornamental have a great place to roll. Next, please. In terms of the legal framework, we have the Law of Sustainable Rural Development that mandates the creation of the National Product System Committees, and that should be the official non-governmental representation of, before the three levels of government for the design and management of public instruments, where we have 44 crops and 12 strategic commodities that represent 70% of our agricultural GDP, and one of them is the flower and ornamental product system, of course. And in terms of priority programs, there is the slide you are looking for. It's true that we are focused on this administration in grains and basic products that are important for all food self-sufficiency, but without neglecting all those who have an important place in the production and exports of foods, and especially where we can generate even more value. So we have programs where almost 90% of our expenditure budget, that is $2,650 million is concentrated, but also we have strategic projects to attend specific cases where the design and execution of one of them is for flowers and ornamentals. It's becoming imperative. Next, please. Here we highlight that although there is an important cultivated area that generates great value with great social inclusion and vulnerable populations, this can still grow exponentially if we work coordinated in a public-private social sector. Next, please. Here we find the breakdown of the main 12 producing states, but the reality is that there is productive potential throughout the country and including the arid zones. Next, please. In this other slide, what we wanted to highlight the main species that are produced in each state, and where we highlight the dahlia as our national flower and some tropical exotics in the southeast of the country. Next, please. In terms of balance trade, at the end of 2020, we were break-even point, but we know that's why Mexico is known as the sleeping giant. So let's change this together and make it exponentially positive. Next, please. Well, this is the balance trade as that I mentioned, where it's already positive, but that's that we have to change together. Next, please. In terms of governance, what we want to highlight is as I mentioned, the Law of Rural Development that mandates the creation of the National Product System Committee that must be representative of all the links members in the production chain, including suppliers and goods and services necessary for its proper functioning. And this is the official interlocutor with the government. So I invite everybody in Mexico, which is not included already, to get together with the national system, where is Rosendo, now the national representative guy, who usually is in contact with us. Next. In terms of instruments of public policy to support floriculture in Mexico, I would like to highlight the next ones, please. Next. We have recently a climate change and sustainable production group of work, where we have a coordination group for the climate change in the agricultural, aquaculture, and fishing sector. We have a new sectoral committee of genetic resources for food and agriculture, which is led by the PhD Flor Ortiz. We have a national project. This is a brand new one for native plants for the food and agriculture, a national strategy for conservation and use of pollinators as well. Next, please. On the other hand, one of the lessons learned after pandemic is that we have to enforce the health and safety at work, just to prevent and take care of the COVID-19 and other diseases as well, with the jornaleros agrícolas and family farmers. So that's becoming very important with the national systems product. Next, please. On the other hand, we also have some financial instruments to leverage investment. For example, we have FONAGA, which is the Fondo Nacional de Garantías, which is an equity fund with almost $400 million for risk capital to leverage the investment, and also another fund which is called FOSIR as an equity for risk capital as well. Next, please. On the other hand, we know we also have a lot of genetic resources, more than 30,000 species in flowering plants, 6,000 genera and species for ornamental industry, and new varieties is also coming with conservation, characterization, utilization, and breeding by the time. Next, please. We also know that the ornamental varieties, it's very important, the protection. So that's why we have now more than 556 ornamental varieties registered, 61% with breeder titles with protection under the OPF 78, and we are working with the national discussions with the OPF 91. We have 13 registered in the national list of varieties, which is very important to have that one. 8% with both registers and breeders or from 12 countries, including Mexico. Next, please. We also have these national seed systems with promotion and use of certified seeds and fights against piracy and different elements to make sure that it takes care of the title breeders. Next, please. We also have Senacica, which is very important for us. It warranties the sanitary system for all the crops in the country. Next, please. And as the next steps, and it's part of the mandate of the law, we have this, we are in the process of the renewal of agricultural planning and master plans per crop, where we have in the left side the traditional issues that we also are keeping, but also new elements for the master plan in terms of genetic resources, bioeconomy, inclusion, gender, drought, safety, health, and world climate, change and prospection, and added value, which is very important for the primary sector. Next, please. And for the future, we are working in this agenda 2020-2030, strengthen the floriculture sector, innovation and technology, plant breeders' right protection. As I mentioned, we are in the discussions with the legislative part to make sure that we are in compliance with not just with those right protection plans for breeders, but also with the international trade agreements like the MEC, on the others agreements, increasing the market share and import and export destinies. We know with the North American market is very important. We are doing with some other crops, so we think with ornamental and floriculture it should be part of the targets. And we are also improving our internal market, which has been becoming more and more important for different crops and products. Next, please. So basically, that's what I want to share. I try not to go too in detail, but I'm going to leave you this presentation so you can review and contact me after all if you have more questions or after this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Santiago. It really is very informative, and it really shows the themes that we will be discussing with our other guests later on. Just one question from our side. You mentioned that you have a plan to combat climate change on a horticultural level. What exactly, can you mention some of the topics that make part of that plan?
Sure. In fact, one of the main topics that we're working with SNCC and INIFAC, which is the Institute for Transfer of Technology, it's developing new materials, resilient materials in terms of have the elite genetic materials for transfer to put high technology at the service of the smallholders, for example. We are also working in a reconversion productive plants, just to recognizing that there is new potential productive in different regions of the country. For example, our agriculture frontier is 24 million hectares, and we also have 5 million of hectares that should be reconverted for shorter cycles, for crops, of course, and for crops with lower demand of water for irrigation, and that's kind of. And I think in terms of ornamental, there is a potential also for cactaceae in arid zones that I mentioned that could be developed for the future together.
Well, this is maybe a nice way to finalize this conversation with you on Santiago, and a challenge to Tim Briercliff, our Secretary General of the AIPH, to maybe next year dedicate a webinar on this topic, on what countries, what companies should do when it comes to climate change. You gave some good examples, but there's so much that needs to be done. So thank you for this. Thank you for now. It's time to go to our next guest. It's Mrs. Claudia Lee, the director of, sorry.
Yeah, Ed,
sorry,
first we go to Marco Beltran. Yeah, sorry.
First we go to Marco Beltran.
Of the director of Flor. I just wanted to mention before we go to the panelists that if there's any questions for Mr. Santiago Argüello, like he already said, please use the question pane to send your questions so we can relay them to him later. Michael, can you join us? Welcome, Michael. We just heard in the video also of OPF, but Mr. Santiago Argüello was mentioning it as well. There is a desire in Mexico to increase exports. There's an enormous potential in the country's ornamental industry, and it would be nice to make better use of that. You are the director of one of the companies that has been exporting for quite a long time. You're one of the few. Why is that?
Hi to the audience, and thank you for the invitation. My background, basically, I was born and raised in the flower industry. This company was founded by my parents back in the 70s. So we have been in the business for over 50 years already. I am a member of a second generation in the family, and basically, well, my studies, I went, I mean, I am an agronomist, and when I graduated, it was right about when NAFTA was starting back in the 90s, mid 90s. So right after that, I thought it was a great moment. I mean, to be part of this opportunity. I mean, why not seeking other markets and focusing our business to another market. I think it was a perfect moment to start developing new trading channels, and somehow, I mean, at that time it was very challenging, but it was also I think a great opportunity to start knocking the door in another latitude. But going back to the family business, and well, my father, my family is pioneering growing flowers in the central area of the country, in the state of Mexico. Basically, Villa Guerrero is one of the leading growing regions in growing flowers in the country. Today, flowers are grown across the country, which you saw the presentation of Secretary. I think that Mexico has been a place where offers a wide opportunities of climate. Many different climates that you can grow, from tropicals to flowers like tulips that demand, or orchids, or many other flowers. And today, I mean, you can see that Mexico is a place where the flowers can grow basically anywhere in the country. I keep hearing for decades that Mexico is a sleeping giant, but I would not consider Mexico a sleeping giant. Mexico is an awakened giant. The problem is that it has a different opportunities. Why an awakened giant? Because the industry in Mexico, the flower industry in Mexico, is much bigger than what many people think. It gives a lot of employment. It has, I mean, there are thousands of hectares grown in the country, not only cut flowers, but also ornamental plants, pot plants, and this is because Mexico has a very rich religious traditions and a lot of love for the flowers and plants. So speaking of international trading, yes, there is a lot more to do, and there are so many challenges that we should focus on, but Mexican flower industry is a reality. I mean, it needs another infrastructure, yes. It needs to be professionalized, yes. But the potential of the flower industry in Mexico I mean, goes further than what people could think about.
Well,
so
that's exactly the reason, Marco, that we organized this webinar, because there are so many opportunities in your country. You've got a huge population, you've got a huge local market, you got a country that loves flowers. So in a way, in a Latin American perspective, there's a nice parallel with a country like Brazil, which has a similar size in terms of population and also has a huge local market, and they do that quite well, but they hardly export like you. The difference is that from Brazil exporting to the main market in the Americas, which is North America, is quite a challenge, cost-wise, logistically. In Mexico, theoretically, that would be a lot easier. And on the other hand, you have a country like Colombia, which is smaller than Mexico, smaller than Brazil, but still a big local market. But they export some 96% of their flowers. So that will be one of the main topics, I think, to discuss with you guys. What is the reasoning behind that? Because you got it all in place. You need education, you need infrastructure. But just from your thought, just the first reply on this question, what is the key thing that is needed to make Mexico become that big exporting country?
I think one of the most important would be the organization among growers and all the institutions. I mean, there is a lot more to be needed. I mean, but the organization among the growers is very important. But I have also said that we also need more strategic alliances that involve the growers and also the market. I mean, in this case, the international markets. So when you put the growers and the international market together, I mean, with a little bit of capital, could be domestic investors or foreign investors, that's fine. But when you put all these three elements together, I think that it could help a lot the Mexican flowers or the industry go abroad. So that's why maybe.
The reason why that hasn't happened yet, I mean, there are some examples, but they are very limited. Is it a cultural reason?
Cultural is an important, but today, I mean, with globalization, I mean, you can see here in Mexico that I mean, many successful examples, but in flowers there are also other groups that can be achieving these goals going to another market. But I think that when you bring these three elements that I just mentioned, and also the more organization organization with the growers, among the growers, this could benefit a lot for bringing it to another level.
Sounds good. For now, I want to thank you very much, and let's go quickly to our next guest, and there will be plenty of time, hopefully, to discuss with you and the others afterwards. For now, thank you. We go to Miss Claudia Lee from Akiko. I still tend to say Akiko, Claudia. I should say Bol Akiko, of course, but I've known you for quite a while, and Akiko is such a like Coxfloy, like Marco Beltran right now. You both have a company that really is outstanding in the market you represent in Mexico. You're the director of Akiko. Could you provide the audience with a short introduction on yourself and on your company?
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Renee, and thank you all for attending this important webinar, and thank you for the invitation, of course. Akiko, Flores y Plantas, it was founded 31 years ago. We consider ourselves like the promoters and facilitators and pushers in this industry. You see, Marco was very right. We are not a sleeping giant. We are an awake giant. And Mexico has a very big internal market, and that's where we fit. And we have always been supporting all the growers, importing all the young plant material, seeds, bulbs, young plants, cuttings from all over the world, especially Holland, because it's the place where most of the products are coming from, especially bulbs. So we are not only importing the goods, but also giving all this technical support to the growers to let them know how they can produce better, to improve the quality, to reduce cost during productions, and also to adapt the technologies from outside into Mexico traditionally way of growing.
Right. So that's the way it's organized. You focus on your market are lots, maybe thousands of local Mexican growers. Just to get back to Marco for a second, it's a giant which is awake. You've got a huge market, and you've got a huge sector with thousands and thousands of people working in that sector, but there's a lack of organization, there's a lack of collaboration amongst the growers. Do you play a role in that? I mean, your company is such a dominant factor in the supply of propagation material, of new varieties. What role do you play in that collaboration process?
Well, we try to learn and teach the growers how they can produce better, that sometimes they need to be specialized in some of the products or cultivates that they are doing, that we have to share technology in between all the growers and the areas. And it's also not that easy to grow the same in the north and in the central or in the south. There are different ways of growing. We are all the time trying to come all these growers together, trying to organize not only technical meetings, but also the way on how to approach the markets. You know, that if we see that the amount of bulbs is increasing that much, then we try to talk to them to equalize the offer and not to crash the markets as well.
Other question, breeders' right. Santiago already mentioned something about breeders' right as well. It's still a sensitive topic in Mexico, and one that really hampers further development, I think, of the floricultural sector. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the breeders' right plays nowadays, especially a very important role in this, because if we want to not only to be on, well, if we want to export, yes, if we want to keep on the top of the varieties, then we must respect the breeders' rights, and we must have access to the newest varieties and to the newest technology in Mexico. And in that respect, I have seen a lot of changes in these 30 years that I've been in the industry. The government has improved also a lot. The registration is going a lot faster. We still need to register a lot more varieties, because it's also has no sense that you have to claim, or you can claim for breeders' right if you don't have a variety registered in Mexico. So step one is that you as breeders, we as breeders, we register the varieties in Mexico. Second, then we have to teach the people that the respect of those varieties is very important, because if we want to export, we need to respect the products. We cannot export piracy or illegal products.
Exactly, exactly. But there's still a long way to go.
There's still a long way to go, yes. And hopefully, if we can get the upgrade into OPF 91, that will help us a lot to promote and to accelerate the readers' right in Mexico.
So final question for you for now. Mark already spoke about collaboration on a level of joint ventures or maybe private equity or foreign investment or collaborations with retailers in North American markets or whatever. All kind of scenarios are feasible. You made such a step. You are now, it's now Bol Akiko. You teamed up with Bol, one of the leading propagators, breeders in the world. What happened to your company? What is the main difference between Akiko now and Akiko, let's say 5 years ago, before you teamed up with Bol?
Well, I think we are stronger now. We have access now to a bigger and wider networking system all around the world. I think Bol is one of the major companies in this industry. So we have more access to all these, not only products, but also technology, marketing. We are more aware of all the trends that are happening all around the world. So I think it's very important for us that we are now, well, we made this joint venture with Bol. It will only bring a lot of good things for us, or benefits for us like Mexicans, but we as Mexicans, we can also share a lot of things to the world and participate in a lot of things in the group.
Does that fact make your company very different from many other Mexican companies, that you are not afraid to share that knowledge, to share that everything you have established in the past 30 years?
I think so. Yes, I think so. I think we have always been very open. We are not afraid of competition or sharing or all the things. I think we have to do things on the right way always. And if you do things on the right way and share your knowledge, then all the good things come back to you at the end.
So everybody from Mexico is listening, and if you want to learn something about that, I would say contact Claudia, because it's worth it. And I think it also kind of reflects, I mean, we are here in Costa Rica for 20 years already, but we come from the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands, that's the name of the game. That has always been the name of the game. Sharing with auctions, with cooperative banks, with study clubs, whatever. And that's why the Netherlands became a big player, a small country, but a big player in the world of ornamentals. And we can learn from each other. And this is one of the topics that in Mexico would be very interesting to see how that will be developed in the next couple of years. We got a guest later on who will talk about that as well. But first we go to?
Yeah, we go to the Netherlands, or actually we go to Italy. We go to Marco Heijnen. Claudia, thank you so much. Claudia. We'll see you later.
Yep.
Marco.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. You're enjoying your holidays, but we're really pleased that you could make the time to be with us today. And you work at Floricultura, responsible for Mexico. Can you quickly and briefly introduce yourself and your company?
Yes, thank you, Renee and Ed. I'm Marco Heijnen, I'm commercial manager at Floricultura, in which I'm responsible for the sales throughout Europe, Latin America, and also Oceania. Mexico is for us, it's one of the most important countries. We, as a breeder and multiplicator of orchids, anthuriums, and spathiphyllum, it's a big country for us because there's a lot of production going on of the three products that I just mentioned. I've been working now for 5 years at Floricultura, and since the beginning I'm involved in Mexico, and I've seen that the growth in Mexico went quite fast. As Claudia and Marco already pointed out, Mexico is not sleeping anymore. I don't think it's completely awake, but it's slowly waking up. And I actually expected 5 years ago that the growth would go faster than what it did in the previous years. But I believe that now it goes faster and the economy is getting stronger. More people are being able to buy plants, which has a positive impact on the potted plant sector. And you see step by step companies rising up, stepping up their game, increasing in quantities, increasing in professionalism. And I think that's for Mexico something on a positive note for the future.
Thank you, Marco. Well, Ed already mentioned it, and you mentioned it also. You're also responsible for Brazil, so there's a lot of opportunity for you to compare those markets to each other. What can they learn from each other, and how are they similar and how are they different?
As Ed pointed out, they're very similar in terms of a huge local market. I think Brazil has roughly 200 million people living there, which is a bit more than Mexico. But also in Brazil, in the last couple of years, the middle sector of people that are getting money to buy plants increased a lot. And I believe in Mexico, it happened the same. So that's a big comparison that the market is huge. Also, what is quite similar is that both countries are focusing on the local market rather than exporting. In the Netherlands, the local market is quite small, but everything is exported throughout Europe until Russia and Spain and Finland. So then the market for Europe is quite big, but yeah, Brazil is still 2 times the size of Europe. So I think Mexico and Brazil, both locally, they still have a lot to gain. And I think what they can learn from each other is that Brazil has learned a lot from the Netherlands. The biggest region in Brazil is Alhambra, and that's, well, some people say the Netherlands in small. They also have the auction. In Brazil, it's easier to sell plants because you can, if you're a smaller grower, you can put anything on the auction and it will be sold for normally decent prices if the market is good. And in Mexico, the growers need to sell their own plants. So that's one of the biggest differences between those markets, is that the growers in Mexico, they need to be self-sufficient in their sales. And I believe that's also where there's an opportunity for those growers. I think Claudia and Marco both pointed it out when it comes to strategic alliances, that smaller growers, if they would focus on a few products rather than producing many different products, I think the quality can increase. And they can make partnerships, strategic alliances, however you call it, together, and be a bigger player for, let's say, a bigger supermarket chain like Costco or something, that it's in Mexico is more or less controlling the market for the potted plants.
No. Michael, a final question. You are a foreign company, or representing a foreign company yourself. We just heard Claudia, it makes her stronger to be aligned with a foreign force. Cox Flor said it's important to draw more foreign investment to Mexico. Can you share a bit of the challenges, but also the opportunities that you see as a foreign company active in a huge market like Mexico?
We have seen throughout the last couple of years that you need to be locally active, and the same what we did in Brazil is that in Brazil we started a company. We built our own greenhouse in 2018 and we're expanding at the moment. And in Mexico we started last year with a cooperation with a local sales person. He's working only for Floricultura in terms of potted plants. Ben Volwater he's called, and he's living in Mexico. He's speaking the language, he knows the people, and it's easier for him to travel to our growers to give them advice and to be a listening ear for them. I believe that's something that for us was always a challenge, how to be locally active without local people. And yeah, I don't say that we're going to build immediately a greenhouse in Mexico as well, but perhaps for the future, it's if the market keeps increasing, we can do the same trick as what we did in Brazil, because the market is indeed increasing, and we've seen it with orchids, with anthurium, with spadphyllum. But yeah, I think for us the biggest challenge was always to be locally represented, and now we have solved that issue, and we see that the growers like it. They get more attention, and we hope that the way of asking certain cultivation advices or something like that is now easier for them, which is in the end our goal, to help those growers to develop, to be stronger, to grow bigger, because in the end that's the best for the grower and for the market as well.
So you mentioned the biggest challenge is what you just said, is local presence, is understanding the culture, speaking the language. To finalize this topic with you, Marco, for now, is second biggest, is that the lack of collaboration we already discussed? Is it maybe still breeders' rights, although Claudia said that it's really improving right now? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, breeders' rights is always a topic that we are looking into quite heavily, because we also see illegal propagation of our products. I believe it's a bit more difficult than the products that Claudia and Marco are working with. But again, it's being done, and yeah, it's like you said, we should teach the growers the respect of the varieties. And I think breeders' right for now, it's a hot topic, and we should definitely do something with it. But yeah, as Claudia said, we need to be united in that. And at one point, you need to set aside all of your competition importances and just focus on the importance of the market, because in the end, yeah, without the breeders' right, for now maybe it's still possible, but 10 years from now, and that's where we're working towards, is yeah, you definitely need it.
Do you agree with me when I say
that everybody is operating in that?
Do you agree with me when you talk about breeders' rights, that it's not so much about teaching the other, but it's more about explaining that there's a mutual interest, that when you respect breeders' rights, yeah, that you will develop your market in a much more professional and effective way? I mean, it's mutual interest.
Yeah, I agree, because if you if somebody does not respect the breeders' right, then that grower is also not the first grower in line to receive a new variety, and that limits the development of that company. So if they mutually respect that, then yeah, the breeder has a benefit of having better sales, higher margins, and the grower has the benefit of constantly getting the best varieties there are on the market.
Thanks, Marco. We'll get back to you as well, of course, in some 10 minutes. But first, we go to our next guest.
Federico Martinez from the Consejo Nacional de la Flor. But Federico, good to have you with us. A lot of topics have been discussed already. Could you please briefly explain what the Consejo Nacional de la Flor is doing and what you strive for?
Well, yeah, sure I will. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you, Renee and Ed with Jungle Talks. Thank you to Enrique Arias with OPF. Thank you to the AIPH and Floricultura International teams. Thank you very much for the invitation and for the opportunity to share with you. And I would like to share some numbers, if you allow me, Renee, please.
Yes, we'll make you presenter. Let me check. Here you go. You're able to share your screen. Yeah.
Can you?
Yes, we can see the numbers.
Okay. I want to show you these numbers because I think that's important. First of all, the size of the flower North America market, and that is $2,559 million. That's the size of the flower market in North America. The United States have 77.4% of that. Canada has 12%, 12.8%, and Mexico 9.8%. But here the important number is that Canada import 55% of their consumption of cut flowers, of cut and flower cut flower and foliage. But the United States, and this is constantly growing number, they import 79% of their flower consumption. And that's where we, as Mexican growers, we have the opportunity to go to that market, especially to the United States. Mexico only exports 3.9% of the market of the imports of Canada and the USA. Okay. Now I would like to go back to, if you can take the screen, please.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'll give you some other numbers. Some of them already Mr. Santiago Argüello gave you some figures about Mexico. Over 20,000 hectares of ornamental production in Mexico. Over 20,000 growers. So you can see the average size of every farm is very small, about 1 hectare. So most of the growers in Mexico are small growers. Half of the area are for cut flowers, about half of it, and half for ornamental plants. About 7,000 hectares of greenhouses. The cut flower and foliage value in Mexico is about $250 million US. The value for plants, for ornamental plants, is about $300 million US. In 2019, Mexico exported about $79 million US of cut flowers and foliage. That's only 3.9 of the Canada and US imports. And Mexico exported $21.4 million US of cuttings. Now, what must happen to make Mexico increase its flower exports? That's the question. Yes, Marco say the giant sleeping has awakened. Yes, maybe for the local market, but not for the export market. So that's where we want to grow the export market. And I think what we need is new players, new investors in the field, and investments in growing facilities like greenhouses or shade houses, in infrastructure. I would talk about a flower hub to concentrate the production of these new players, but also the actual growers that have no means to export their flowers. Investment in logistics, especially transportation by truck, and of course in marketing, by having offices in the USA and Canada, advertising the Mexican product in these markets. In Mexico, we have everything to do that, to be able to grow the flower exports. We have land, we have water, we have different climates for different crops, we have labor. I wouldn't say cheap labor, but we have labor and capable labor. We have the technology available. We have the connectivity, the roads, everything you need to go to the market. And we have, or we may have, competitiveness derived from a couple of things. Increase in air freight costs. And that's a problem for the Colombian growers who have to fly their product to the market, especially to the States. And the freight cost is every day more expensive. But also for Holland, that is another major player in the flower market in North America, the freight costs are increasing. So we can compete with that. But also we can compete because of the adjustments in quality parameters like stem and flower size. Now, what are we as the Mexican Flower Council are doing? Okay, we are promoting and getting involved in all sorts of events related to the flower sector. I mean, trade shows, conferences, webinars like this one, promoting training, educational programs, and the use of technology by the growers. And of course, we have constantly meetings with the government, the Congress people, together with the National Agriculture Council, el Consejo Nacional Agropecuario in Mexico, to promote the interest of the flower industry.
Federico, one question for you on a topic that we barely touched, but we talked about breeders' rights, we talked about improving education, cooperation, sharing, etc. We briefly touched sustainability. I talked a little bit about climate change. Santiago Argüello explained what's on the agenda for the next couple of years. You said very clearly that the majority of the Mexican floricultural growers are small growers, 1 hectare. How is that developing? How are you making the sector ready for, say, 2030 in terms of sustainable production that also adheres to the ethical standards of the breeders' rights and you know, cooperate with each other in a good and beneficial way?
Well, sadly, at least in Mexico, sustainability has not an important role in the current market. Why? Nobody, wholesalers, retailers, or even consumers will buy your product because you have an IPM program, or because you have solar panels, or a deep dripping system, or a recycling watering system, or because you're using, recycling, and reducing. Nobody will buy your product just because of that. So that's one thing. And nobody will pay, at least now, at this moment, more for your product if you are sustainable. No. That means the growers have no, at this very moment, have no incentives to be sustainable. Some growers, but a few growers, have invested and implemented sustainability actions because of self-convictions, because they just want to do it. No. Of course, many growers are using more environment-friendly products like fertilizers or pesticides because they are commercially available. And manufacturers now are working every day more with products friendly with the environment, and the growers are buying it. Yes, of course. Equipment such as solar panels, water recycling systems, or watering systems, automation systems are very expensive. Financing is needed. Okay, and now I think growers will be more sustainable when the customer requests products grow with sustainability actions.
But that seems like a long, that seems like a bit of a long way still. But let's just discuss this later on when we get all the panelists on screen. So please, Federico, stay with us.
Yes,
and please, Marco and the other Marco from Floricultura and Santiago and Claudia, please join us with your cameras and microphones.
And in the meantime, I would like to ask everybody to ask questions in the question panel. Download the handouts that we put in there. You can find them in your dashboard on the right-hand side of your screen. Santiago is almost there. We're still missing Michael Beltran.
Yes.
Here we are. Here we are. Let's just proceed with what Federico was just mentioning about Colombia. Logistics around the globe is a headache. It's getting more and more complicated. It's getting more and more expensive. And when I think of a country like Colombia, which was already for the past 5, maybe 10 years, focusing more and more on sea freight instead of air freight, because they saw that coming, that development with air freight. There's a huge competitive advantage in Mexico, especially when I think of the Midwest of North America and the western part, like California and up, for Mexican producers to enter the North American market. What's your opinion about that, Marco Beltran?
Yes, I think that that is one of the greatest advantages that will always offer the Mexican flower industry, and for any other industry coming out of Mexico, basically. I mean, being a neighbor of one of the most important markets in the world, the North American market, and I mean, you can reach basically any place within the country in less than 72 hours by truck, but also sea freight is also a reality from Mexico too. I mean, we have tried sea freight as well, but I think that the infrastructure for shipping flowers also is needed. Even though we have the proximity, there's also a need of important players for bringing in the Mexican product to the North American market.
So what kind of players are you thinking about?
Trucking companies, for example.
Right.
I mean, there has been an issue also, I mean, for years about having the local companies trespassing the border with the U.S. and still, I mean, it is possible today, but until certain, distance.
Right.
So I don't know what is the regulation on that as of today, but it could also be a very important topic to discuss in further after this.
Yeah,
let's go
in a follow-up webinar.
Exactly. For now, let's go to Marco Heijnen for a second. There's a need for trucking companies. There's a need for new blood in the ornamental sector to export. Marco, what's your opinion? I mean, I heard a lot of people talking about the lack of collaboration, the fact that Mexico is made up of lots of relatively small companies who do not have the opportunity themselves to export, and they need to collaborate, but there's this cultural issue. If you think about the future of Mexico some 10 years from now, and let's just assume that due to logistics and due to various reasons, Mexico will become a much bigger player in instead of 4% to the North American market, it will have a share of, like, say, 20%. What kind of companies will make that happen?
I think it's possible for the smaller companies to make it happen. Same chances as for the bigger companies, as long as the smaller companies can collaborate on those things. I think what Marco pointed out is that you need to have certain companies involved in the logistics part in order to make it successful. Yeah. Because no matter how big the company is, logistics is a specific sector that you need to be specialized in order to make it successful. So I think it has to be a combination of local companies in the United States or Canada that can help you with their part, because I think the customs is very strict. Speaking for pot plants, then you have phytosanitary rules that come in place more than with cut flowers, which make it more difficult. So I believe that a local partner is definitely something that you need to have, as well as a logistics partner. And then if you would have a bigger company, you could do it yourself, but the production needs to be quite in big volumes. And I believe a bigger company, to make it more interesting for, let's say, a Northern American player, you need to have more than one product. So if you are specialized in, let's say, orchids, it would be good to have a partner that is specialized in anthuriums, and another partner that is specialized in spathiphyllum, and another one that's specialized in poinsettias or whatever product is big in Mexico, to make one truckload or two truckloads more interesting, because then you are a more important player for the local markets, because they don't want to work with 20 different producers. So if you can collaborate together on a Mexican side as a producer, to be able to supply different products in big volumes with a decent quality and a continuation of the quality, and you have a trucking company that can arrange everything and a local importer, I think that's the only way for pot plants to make it work and to be successful. But again, it comes into place that you need to have partnerships and search for the right companies to work with.
Claudia, it sounds to me that it makes sense what both Marco and Marco are saying, but is it realistic and is it feasible?
Absolutely, and I think both are totally right. At this moment, Mexico has only two options in my point of view. Or we bring new players to start totally from zero with a business focused mind to export, only to export, not to attend Mexican local market. Or we organize the people that we have here, the growers that we have here, we make an independent trading company, not dependable of any of the growers, but totally independent, with specific contracts, production contracts. And then we can, the people who's organizing this can gather all the production, stabilize the quality, and then make contracts or partnerships with the transport companies or the contracts with customers in North America to export the products, the goods. We have the quality and we have the quantity. The only thing is that we need a third company who organize all this, like an orchestra master.
Right. Well, that's in fact, that's my question. I mean, it's obvious what you're saying. We need to do this and we need to do that. But who is we? Is that the private sector? Is that the public sector? Is that Santiago and is it Federico? Is that foreign companies who bring in a lot of money and knowledge and who make it happen together with smaller companies? Who is we?
I think private sector, absolutely. It has to come, this thing has to come from a private sector. Well, if all the investment is welcome, we have the ideas, we are only missing the capital sometimes. So yeah, of course we need people with business mind. Yeah.
So Santiago, if I may ask this question to you, if I don't know, first of all, I don't know if you agree with this, of course, but in case you do, and it's the private sector who has to make it happen, what will, as the Vice Minister of Agriculture, what will be your role in that to facilitate that?
Yes, thank you. No, basically, I would like to say that in principle, I agree with previous comments. And I would like to start saying that being Mexico the cradle of fair trade, there is a good experiences organizing people in cooperatives doing or working in direct trade or producing high quality products with high consistency. So, but yes, in my humble experience, it should be an alignment, an exercise of alignment in terms of public policy public policy together with economic, social, and political forces, we must do together an exercise of mapping the current supply chains, because we see that there are different variants where exist, and if I am clear now that as Federico mentioned, the giant awakening, we need to accelerate this process for export market. We need to learn how to work together with smallholders, but also by mapping the current supply chains where possibly the violation of the obtaining rights for the breeders are occurring in the map, where is not happening as well. We together, public and private sector and social sector, could cross-pollinate the best practice to identify the triggers that we must put together for a better control not just in the multiplication process of the varieties, but also with innovative contract farming schemes that make sure that everything works with efficiency in the supply chain. No? And at the end, I also agree that, and it's not just part of one product, in this case, floriculture, but also happens with commodities like coffee, cocoa, that sustainability is many times a question of values and not just a premium market. Hopefully, of course, because there is a niche of markets, hopefully the market pays for sustainability. But in case of not, at least it should be aspirational, working together, public, private sector, social sector as well, in distinctives that should be part of preferential programs from the final clients or customers, but not necessarily implying an economic premium. No? But yes, just answering the direct question, I would say that we need to work together.
Okay, well, that brings me to, we just received a very nice, small, concise question, but before I get to that, I would like to go to Federico to top off this topic. Federico, if I think about a country like Colombia, we did as a company a sector study to the opportunities in Colombia back in 2014, and in those days there were like 6-7 companies of about 250 hectares exporting. Nowadays, there's 4 companies of around 1,000 hectares exporting. Their span of control, not just on a production level, but almost towards consumer, is enormous. Is it really realistic, to your point of view, that gathering those companies in Mexico, make it happen, make the logistic chain happen, but with a lot of small companies together, is that, I mean, the world is changing with such a speed. Will Mexico be capable of competing with these monstrous companies in Colombia who control almost the chain until retail?
Okay, that may happen, but not with the actual players, only with the actual players. I mean, actual players, or some of the actual players in Mexico can achieve that. I mean, can export. A lot of them can do that, but not by themselves. I mean, we need, I'm sure we need new players in the sector that can push and make the necessary investments in the right places to make it easier for everybody, not only for them, but for everybody, including the actual growers in Mexico, to export, to reach that market. But I don't see that happening by the actual growers by themselves. I don't really see it.
So the way it might happen, another way at least, another path to follow, is that this very concise question which says, I'm a foreign investor, where do I start? Who do I contact? Let's start with, well, I mean, Bull was that foreign investor. Bob contacted Claudia, right?
Correct.
So Claudia, based on your experience, what would you advise this guy or girl? To be honest, I don't know who it is.
Yeah, I think the most important is that they contact people with a good reputation in the industry. No, it would be too arrogant to say me, not to anybody, to contact the Chamber of Commerce in Mexico, to contact the Ministry of Agriculture in Mexico, to start looking for information is very important. We as Mexicans can say many things about the country, many good things to invest, but if you are an investor, first of all, you need to know where you're going to put your money in. So you must know a little bit more about Mexico, the culture, the politics, the economic situation, and also about the industry. So if I think that the best way for any investor, foreign investor, is that they contact their own Chamber of Commerce, and from there they can be directed to many people, even the Mexican Flower Council, the Minister of Agriculture in Mexico, and then they will be directed to the right people. No,
Claudia, maybe one sensitive topic. Another question comes in from the audience that we haven't touched yet, but is very closely related to foreign investment. Is of course security. We have discussed this briefly when preparing for this session. It hasn't deterred ball. Marco, you're traveling regularly to Mexico. How, as private sector representatives, and maybe to start with to stay with you for a little bit, Claudia, how do you see that hurdle actually, I think, in attracting foreign investment and in developing the industry further?
Well, of course, security is an issue in Mexico, but also in some other countries in the world. You know, the most important is that if you are a foreign, you have to contact local people, so they get to know exactly where you can invest and where not, in which areas you can go to produce and in which areas you cannot go to produce. So there are bad zones, yes, of course, but there are also very good areas in Mexico, protected and secure. So again, I think the most important is that people who want to invest contact the chambers of commerce or contact their local embassies or serious people for that.
I got two more questions specifically for Marco and Marco. Let's start with Marco Heijnen. Marco, let's just assume that I'm the CEO of Floricultura and I tell you, sorry, Marco, there's no place for you anymore in the company. But I got this proposal. I got $5 million for you, and you can invest in floriculture in Mexico. That's the only change you have. You have to do it. Take it or leave it. You got to decide to do what today. What steps would you take?
I think what Claudia pointed out, it's first search for a local partner. What I already mentioned, that was something that we had a challenge with in the beginning, but now we've solved it, and I believe the local people know the best the culture, but also safety-wise, where to grow, the climate. Obviously, as a Dutch person, we know a bit about the climate, but growing in the Netherlands, it's quite easy compared to growing in Mexico, where there's more extremes, with a lot of times less technologies. So I would first start with a local reliable partner. Probably I would go into the region in terms of pot plants, Morelos, Cuautla, Ciudad de Mexico, close to those regions, because then you're closest to the major cities, but also to the bigger production areas. And I would choose 2, 3, maybe 4 crops to focus on, to have a risk spread, but also to be professional on just a few products with very high quality. And then I would also do a risk spread in the sales in terms of selling my own products in my own shops, compared to growing, working with a supermarket like Costco, because they have quite a lot of power in Mexico, and I believe that it's good to have big partners that you can sell most of your products to, but also to have smaller niche market where you can have a higher volume of a higher value for your products that you grow.
Thank you, Marco Beltran. For you, the other question. I mean that the percentage is like 4% being exported. Of the USA market is being supplied with some less than 4% by Mexican ornamental products. I think it's in your benefit when that figure would rise. I mean, you got much more critical volume. You talked about logistics that would all improve when there would be more exports from Mexico. So what do you do as a person, as a company, to stimulate this topic that we've been discussing now? I mean, it's not asleep. This giant is definitely awake, but exports can still be improved. What do you do to stimulate foreign investment, local investment, whatever?
Yes, Ed. I think that, well, we need to differentiate the grower level in Mexico. I mean, I have said that the awakened giant, because, I mean, the industry is a reality here in Mexico. And when you see that the majority of the growers are small size growers, and these kind of growers will always persist and will always be attending the domestic needs, and we need to differentiate the needs for these growers and the needs of and what is the international or the export market looking for. I mean, and looking for. So, I mean, it will be very difficult to transform all these thousands of growers into one giant export entity. So I agree with Claudia that it will be much easier to create like ventures or strategic alliances or new players in the industry to increase the participation of Mexican flower exports to any other country. So yes.
We were just because I'm looking at the time also to slowly go and wrap up. You agree with Claudia? A lot needs to happen still. I was just wondering if the COVID epidemic that hit also Mexico hard, but also local market development in terms of e-commerce, because that's also what you saw on the rise in Mexico internally in the past year or so. If that also spurs those certain developments that you want to happen altogether, is that a factor of importance that maybe can speed up what you are talking about?
Yes, of course. I mean, the COVID pandemic brought all the opportunities for the growers, and one of these opportunities is that supermarkets are now selling more flowers than before. Online sites and I mean, the e-commerce is a very important player on the market today, but for this, I think that the Mexican flower industry needs more professionalization of the sector. We need, I mean, maybe new players, but I mean, the production itself is there. I mean, there's one thing. What Mexico offers is a great and extensive variety of flowers to be grown here with great quality. But now, what do we need to put all this product into the market? I mean, if we are seeking for an e-commerce, well, I mean, it's a totally different channel that involves more technology and more knowledge. And for this, it has to be done by new players or by more professionals in the area.
But this was again one of those webinars that there are far too many topics and far too little time to discuss it. We hope at least that with thanks to Marco Beltran, Marco Heijnen, Claudia Lee, Federico Martinez, and Santiago Argüello, we were capable of at least providing the people with some kind of an overview of what Mexico is all about, and that it's if you haven't been there, or if it's been a long time that you have been there, it's time to go. And for the Mexican people listening to us, I hope this was helpful for you. There are ample opportunities in the Mexican market, both in the local market, but specifically for exports. So that's, for me, that's it for now. That's for us, it is for now.
Yes.
We'd like to go to Tim to wrap this up. Tim Brierkleef, the Secretary General of the AIPH, sorry.
Well, thank you very much, Ed and Rene. Thanks to all that joined in the panel for this webinar today. Like you, I still have many questions and many things that would be good to discuss. I think we could extend it for a long time, but I think you've really given us a good insight. It's clearly a market which in its own right in Mexico is growing and strong. And yet, like many countries, you have a production base that is made of many small producers. And how to handle that, to tackle the opportunities that exist, is a challenge that you are facing and many other countries have faced too. It may be that there are lessons can be learned between countries that have faced a similar challenges. Clearly, there's for exploiting the export market, there needs to be that demand, there needs to be the scale, and whether you do that through players coming in or through building up your own internal organization to be able to tackle those needs of logistics and trucking that comes with it, and the private sector investment that has to overcome the different barriers that are there to do it. But it's great to see that the sleeping giant is waking up, and I think from what we have seen, there's clearly an appetite for this kind of development and change. You are entrepreneurs yourselves developing these opportunities, and it's great that you have been able to share that with us. I hope to be able to come soon too, and I hope for a successful OPF show and for a success for all of your businesses as you grow and expand your opportunities. So thank you for taking the time to share your insights and expertise with us today. We really appreciate it, and I wish you well. Thank you.
Yeah, before we leave you with our final video, we would like to thank everybody for your presence, but also for asking questions. And we were not capable of answering all your questions, but we will share them with our guests of today. And yeah, hopefully they will get back to you in case they do have an answer for you. So thanks. And
yeah, we go to the video. Thank you very much, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
La producción de flores y ornamentales en México es una actividad apegada a nuestras costumbres, tradiciones y gastronomía, con gran inclusión social en el sector agroalimentario y de alta relevancia económica, estimada en casi $500 millones. El trabajo y la dedicación de floricultores, sumado al uso de tecnología y buenas prácticas agrícolas, los lleva a aprovechar y multiplicar de manera sostenible los recursos genéticos y naturales, proponiendo nuevos modelos de negocio con valor agregado al consumidor. A través de la innovación, Josué genera el clima ideal para la producción de orquídeas en invernadero, mientras que captura y mitiga el CO2.
Las plantas, como te decía, eran tropicales y estamos en un clima templado. Entonces, nosotros necesitamos calefacción para que las plantas estén bien. Y la calefacción, para generar calor, necesita quemar un combustible, en este caso es gas. Cuando nosotros hacemos esa combustión, tenemos un equipo que separa el CO2, entonces ese CO2 es inyectado para que las plantas se nutran también con ese CO2 y entonces no lo emitimos a la atmósfera, pues.
Cristina, Eloísa y Angelina dan larga vida a las flores que producen para reducir el desperdicio de pétalos, con un enfoque en bioeconomía.
La idea original fue el aprovechamiento de las flores que en el invernadero ya no se necesita, pero como somos un grupo de mujeres muy inquietas, hicimos más y empezamos a investigar la forma de hacer las rosas preservadas y ayudamos a nuestra comunidad dando trabajo a mamás solteras, a muchachitas que están estudiando.
Marisol en su empresa familiar produce y exporta rosas, a las cuales con un método innovador da más tiempo de vida, mantiene la calidad y evita desperdicio.
La hidratación es el primer paso. Después llegan los chicos que hacen la selección, las chicas, y toman su malla, que es esta, y la sumergen aquí, solamente los botones. Este proceso es un preparado para que la flor pueda viajar, para evitar enfermedades durante el viaje.
Las familias productoras, jornaleros agrícolas, personal operativo, administrativo, importadores, clientes y consumidores finales de flores y ornamentales son verdaderos héroes del sector agroalimentario que demuestran que el campo no se detiene.
Gobierno de México.